Om Tavakatam Ritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibiritam Kalmashapam Shravanamangalam Shrimadatatam Bhuvimirnantiye Buridachanaha. The nectar of your words, the praise of poets' ears, the elixir to parched souls, delight to listening ears, cleanser of all sins is great and glorious. They who spread it far and wide on earth are most generous. Om, peace, peace, peace. Good evening, friends. Today I would like to do something a little different because it is our last gospel class before our summer break, which will resume in first week of September. And also, after we resume, some classes will be rescheduled, and this gospel class will be temporarily suspended. But for the sake of all us bhaktas today, I thought that we should take a look at the personal aspect of Ramakrishna rather than his divine aspect. So I found that there's no better thing to go over than a letter written by Ashwini Kumar Datta in his later years to M. When M was compiling the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, he had asked Ashwini Kumar Datta to write down and send to him any of his conversations and reminiscences. But his life was busy. He was a student lawyer when he first met Sri Ramakrishna and soon became a full-fledged lawyer, philanthropist, and a social reformer. So it wasn't until his later years that he finally decided to write down some of his reminiscences and submit them to M. Those reminiscences are in Appendix B, attached to the English translation of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, which is an English translation of that letter. So that's in Appendix B on page 1021, for those that might be following. So now he's writing to M. He says, "My beloved brother M, 3 days ago, I received the fourth part of the Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita sent by you." That's the title of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna when it was published in Bengali. The English translation being the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Now, M, when he was writing the Gospel, he had not written it in the same order that it is being published in the Gospel that we are reading. So he translated various parts, Bengali, but he also created an English translation of it, and he submitted them to different devotees for their personal perusal. Ashwin Kumar Datta is thanking M for sending him the fourth part. It says, and now he continues, "And today I have finished reading it. You are blessed indeed. What heavenly nectar you have sprinkled all over the country. A long time ago, you wanted me to set down my conversations with the Master. Now I shall try to write them for you. But I was not born under the lucky star of an M, that I might jot down the days, the dates, and the hours of my visit with the Master, and note down correctly all the words uttered by his holy lips. In this letter, I am giving you as many of my experiences as I remember. Very likely I shall confuse the events of one day with another, and I have forgotten many things. It was probably during the autumn holidays of 1881 that I met Sri Ramakrishna the first time. He would have been 25 years old at that time. I arrived at the Kineshar in a country boat, and going up the steps of the landing ghat, I asked someone where the Paramahamsa was. "There is the Paramahamsa," was the reply. A man was pointed out on the north veranda, which faces the garden. He was sitting reclining against a bolster. He wore a black bordered cloth. At the sight of the bolster and the black bordered cloth, I said to myself, what kind of Paramahamsa is this? So usually only aristocrats or the wealthy wore a black bordered cloth, leaned comfortably against a bolster. So when Ashwini saw him for the first time, a little confused, was this really the Paramahamsa? But going nearer, I found him half leaning against the bolster with his hands clasped around his drawn-up knees. Then I thought, evidently he is not used to pillows as gentlemen are. So perhaps he is the Paramahamsa. At his right, very near the pillow, sat a gentleman whose name I came to know as Rajendra Lal Mitra, later an assistant secretary to the government of Bengal. A little further off sat some others. After a few moments, the master said to Rajendra Babu, "See whether Keshab is coming." Evidently, Keshab Sen was expected that day, Keshab Sen being the leader of the Brahmo Samaj at that time. Someone walked away a few steps and came back. "No, he isn't." After a brief interval, hearing a sound outside, he said, "Please look once more." Again, someone went out and came back with the same reply. Then Sri Ramakrishna laughed and said, quoting a popular saying, "The leaves rustle outside, and Radha says, 'Oh, here comes my sweetheart.'" Continuing, he said, "You see, Keshab always tantalizes me like this. It is his way." So Keshab was a busy man, but he promised that he would visit Ramakrishna. But it was like teasing him because Ramakrishna was very affectionate toward Keshab Sen, and vice versa. Ramakrishna was very endearing to Keshab Sen. So he was always looking forward to meet him because they had good conversations and they felt a kinship. But it was dusk when Keshab finally came with his party. Keshab bowed low before the master, touching the ground with his forehead. The master returned his salutation in the same manner. Shortly afterwards, Sri Ramakrishna said in a state of partial consciousness, "Look, he has brought the whole Calcutta crowd. I am supposed to deliver a lecture. I won't do anything of the sort. Do it yourself if you like. Lecturing is none of my business." So Keshab Chandra Sen was a renowned lecturer, and Ramakrishna could never feel that he was the one giving a lecture. So a lecturer is present, let him give the lecture. Still in that ecstatic mood, he said with a divine smile, "I shall eat, drink, and make merry. I shall play and sleep, but I can't give lectures." As Keshab Babu watched him, he became overpowered with divine emotion. Every now and then he said, "Ah me, ah me." I too watched the master and said to myself, can this be pretense? I had never seen anything like it before, and you know how deep my faith is. Coming back from Samadhi, the master said to Keshab, Keshab, once I went to your temple. In the course of your preaching, I heard you say, we shall dive into the river of devotion and go straight to the ocean of Satchitananda. At once, I looked up at the gallery where Keshav's wife and other ladies were sitting and thought, then what will become of these ladies? You see, Keshav, you are householders. How can you reach the ocean of Satchitananda all at once? You are like a mongoose with a brick tied to its tail. When something frightens it, it runs up the wall and sits in a niche. But how can it stay there at any length of time? The brick pulls it down and it falls to the floor with a thud. You may practice a little meditation, but the weight of wife and children will pull you down. You may dive into the river of devotion, but you must come up again. You will alternately dive and come up. How can you dive and disappear all at once? Kesha Babu said, can't a householder ever succeed? What about Mahendra Devendranath Tagore? Pardon me, what about Maharshi Devendranath Tagore? Maharshi Devendranath Tagore is the father of, what's his first name? Pardon? Rabindranath Tagore, who was a great poet and author and playwright. Twice or thrice the master repeated softly, Devendranath Tagore, Devendra, Devendra, and bowed to him several times. There was a funny incident where Swami Nikhilananda actually met Devendranath Tagore, and Devendranath invited him to come and visit him at his home, and told him there are many devotees there who would be interested in meeting you. And when Ramakrishna met Devendranath, he realized that he was also quite worldly, and asked him, well, what kind of devotees are they? And he said, well, they're all great officials, government officials and so forth. And then Devendranath said, but you should probably tidy yourself up and wear something suitable. And Thakur and Swami Krishna said, I won't do any such thing. I will just come as I am. But he never actually went to his home to meet him. So then Swami Krishna says, then he said, let me tell you a story. A man used to celebrate the Durga Puja at his house with great pomp. Goats were sacrificed from sunrise to sunset. But after a few years, the sacrifice was not so imposing. Then someone said to him, how is it, sir, that the sacrifice at your place has become such a tame affair? Don't you see, he said, my teeth are gone now. Now referring to Devendranath, Devendranath is now devoted to meditation and contemplation. It is only natural that he should be at his advanced age. But no doubt, he is a great man. You see, as long as a man is under Maya's spell, he is like a green coconut. When you scoop out the soft kernel from a green coconut, you cannot help scraping a little of the shell at the same time. But in the case of a ripe and dry coconut, the shell and kernel are separated from each other. When you shake the fruit, you can feel the kernel rattling inside. The man who is freed from Maya is like a ripe and dry coconut. He feels the soul to be separated from the body. They are no longer connected with each other. It is the I that creates all the trouble. Won't this wretched ego ever leave a person? You see a peepal tree growing from the rubbish of a tumble-down house. You cut it down today, but tomorrow you will find a new sprout shooting up. It is the same with the ego. You may wash a cup 7 times that onions have been kept in, but the wretched smell never leaves it. In the course of the conversation, he said to Keshab, "Well, Keshab, I understand that your Calcutta Babus say that God does not exist. Is that true? A Calcutta Babu wants to climb the stairs. He takes 1 step, but before taking the next, he cries out, 'Oh, my side,' and drops down unconscious. His relatives raise a hue and cry and send for a doctor. But before the doctor arrives, the man is very likely dead. And people of such stamina say there is no God." After an hour or so, the kirtan began. What I saw then I shall never forget, either in this life or in the lives to come. Everybody danced, Keshab included. The master was in the center. All danced around him in a circle. During the dancing, Sri Ramakrishna suddenly stood motionless, transfixed in samadhi. A long time passed this way. After hearing his words and seeing all this, I said to myself, yes, a Paramahamsa indeed. Another day, probably in 1883, I visited the master with a few young men from Srirampur. Looking at them, he asked, "Why have you brought them? Why have they come here?" "Master, to see you." "Master, what is there to see in me? Why don't they look at the buildings and temples?" So Ramakrishna would often, when he would see that people are not really interested in visiting a holy man, he would say, "Well, look at the beautiful flowers, the grounds," and so he would redirect them. Then myself, "Sir, they haven't come to see those things. They have come to see you." "Master, then they must be flints. There is fire in them. You may keep a flint under water 1,000 years, but the moment you strike it, sparks come out. They must be of that type. But it will be useless to try to strike fire out of me." At this last remark, we all laughed. I do not recall now what other things he said to us that day, but it seems to me he told us about the renunciation of lust and gold, and the impossibility of getting rid of the ego. I visited him another day. When I bowed down to him and took a seat, he said, "Can you bring me some of that stuff, a little sour, a little sweet, that begins to fizz when you push down the cork?" Myself, "Lemonade?" "Master, why don't you bring a bottle for me?" I think I brought him a bottle. So far as I remember, I was alone with him that day, and I asked him a few questions. Myself, "Do you observe caste?" Master, "How can I say yes? I ate curry at Keshab Sen's house." Now, normally, Ramakrishna, born of a Brahmin family, would have only visited homes of other Brahmins, but Keshab Chandra Sen was not a Brahmin, so not of the same caste. So, in other words, Ramakrishna did not observe caste. He would eat with people regardless of their caste. So, he said, "Let me tell you what once happened to me. A man with a long beard brought some ice here. There's a footnote with that perhaps the master meant a Mohammedan. A man with a long beard brought some ice here, but I didn't feel like eating it. A little later, someone brought me a piece of ice from the same man, and I ate it with great relish. You see, caste restrictions fall away of themselves. So when you start seeing divinity in all beings, it doesn't matter what the caste is, who that is, you see just divinity. So you just see their soul, not the outer covering. As coconut and palm trees grow up, the branches drop off of themselves. Caste conventions drop off like that. But don't tear them off as those fools do. Then in brackets it says, meaning the Brahmos. Myself, now Brahmos means those followers of Keshab Chandra Sen. So now myself, what do you think of Keshab Babu, the master? Oh, he is a saintly man. Myself, and Trilokya Babu, master, a fine man, he sings very well. Myself, what about Shivanath Babu? Myself, a very good man, but he argues. All these men were associated with Brahmo Samaj and were either leaders or speakers or preachers within the Brahmo Samaj. So myself again, what is the difference between a Hindu and a Brahmo? The master. There is not much difference. In the serenade we have here, one flutist plays a single note right along, while another plays various melodies. The Brahmos play one note, as it were. They hold to the formless aspect of God. But the Hindus bring out different melodies. That is to say, they enjoy God in its various aspects. The formless deity and God with form may be likened to water and ice. The water freezes into ice. The ice melts into water through the heat of jnana. Water takes the form of ice through the cooling influence of bhakti. The reality is one. People give it various names. Take the case of a lake with 4 landing ghats on its 4 banks. People who draw water at one ghat call it jal, and those who draw it at the second ghat call it pani. At the 3rd ghat, they call it water, and at the 4th, aqua. But it is the one and the same thing, water. I told the master that I had met Achalananda Tirthavadduta of Barisal. The master, isn't that Ram Kumar of Kotrag? Myself, yes, sir. The master, how did you like him? Master, myself, very much. Master, well, whom do you like better, him or me? Myself. So sometimes Ramakrishna asks questions like this to judge the spiritual potential of an aspirant. That person, Ramakrishna will have one view of a person, but he likes to know, well, what do you think of that person? And based on your response, he's able to judge your spiritual caliber. So now he's asking, well, whom do you like better, him or me? Myself. Oh, can there be any comparison between you two? He is a scholar, an erudite person. But are you one? Sri Ramakrishna was a little puzzled by my reply and became silent. A moment later I said, "He may be a scholar, but you are full of fun. There's great fun in your company." At this, the master laughed and said, well said, right you are." He asked me, "Have you seen my Panchavati?" Myself, "Yes, sir." He told me a little of what he had practiced there, his various religious austerities. He also told me about Nangta. That's how Sri Ramakrishna would refer to Totapuri, one of Sri Ramakrishna's teachers. But then I asked him, "How can I realize God?" "Master, you see, he is constantly attracting us, as a magnet attracts iron. But the iron cannot come to the magnet if it is covered with dirt. When the dirt is washed away, the iron is instantly drawn to the magnet. Weep for God, and the tears will wash away the dirt from your mind." As I was writing down his words, he remarked, "Look here, only repeating the word siti will not produce intoxication. You must actually get some hemp, rub it in water, and then drink the solution." So it's not just writing down the words for remembrance, but to actually follow those words, put the words into practice. And then you will realize something and experience something. Later he said, "Since you are going to lead a householder's life, create a rosette intoxication. In other words, an optimistic intoxication in your mind with the thought of God." So create an optimistic intoxication in your mind with the thought of God. In other words, always feel that as you remember God, you will certainly realize him, one way or the other. So be optimistic about it. You will be doing your duties, but let that pleasant intoxication remain with you. You cannot, of course, like Shukadeva, be so inebriated with the thought of God that you will lie naked and unconscious. As long as you have to live in the world, give God the power of attorney. Make over all your responsibilities to him. Let him do as he likes. Live in the world like a maidservant in a rich man's house. She bathes her master's children, washes them, feeds them, and takes affectionate care of them in many ways, as if they were her own children. But in her heart, she knows very well that they do not belong to her. No sooner is she dismissed than all is over. She has no more relationship with the children. Before breaking open the jackfruit, you should rub your hands with oil in order to protect them from the sticky juice. Likewise, protect yourself with the oil of devotion. Then the world will not cling to you, and you will not be affected by it. All this time, Sri Ramakrishna was seated on the floor. Now he got up and stretched himself on his cot. He said to me, "Fan me a little." I began to fan him, and he was silent. After a while, he said, "Oh, it's so hot. Why don't you dip the fan in water?" "Ah," I said, "you have your fancies too." The master smiled and drawled out, "And why not?" "Very well," I said, "have your full measure of them." I cannot express in words how immensely I enjoyed his company that day. The last time I visited him, you have mentioned it in the third part of your book. I had with me the headmaster of our school, who had just then graduated. You met him the other day. As soon as Sri Ramakrishna saw him, he asked me, "Where did you pick him up? He's a fine fellow." Then he continued, "You are a lawyer. You are very clever. Can you give me a little of your cleverness? The other day your father came here and stayed 3 days." That's Ashwani Kumar's father. So myself, "How did you find him?" Master, "A nice man, but now and then he talks nonsense." Myself, "Please help him get over it when you see him next." At this, Sri Ramakrishna smiled a little. Myself, "Please give us a few instructions." Master, do you know Hridoy?" Myself, "Your nephew? I know him only by name." Master, "Hridoy used to say to me, 'Uncle, please don't give out all your stock of instructions all at once. Why should you repeat the same things over and over again?' I would reply, 'You fool, what's that to you? These are my words, and if I like, I shall repeat them 100,000 times. You keep quiet.'" Myself, smiling, "Exactly so." A little later, he sat up on the bed. He repeated Om several times and began to sing a song whose first line is, "Dive deep, O mind, dive deep in the ocean of God's beauty." Hardly had he sung 1 or 2 lines when he himself dived deep and was lost in samadhi. When the samadhi was over, he began to pace the room and with both hands pulled up the cloth he was wearing till it reached his waist. One end of it was trailing on the floor and the other was hanging loose. Nudging my companion, I whispered, "See how nicely he wears the cloth." A moment later, he threw away the cloth with the words, "Ah, what a nuisance, off with it." It was a hot day. He began to pace up and down the room naked. From the northern end of the room, he brought an umbrella and a stick and asked us, "Are these yours?" Scarcely had I replied no when he said, "I knew it. I can judge a man by his stick and umbrella. They must belong to that man who was here some time ago," and swallowed a lot of my words without understanding them. A few minutes later, he sat down, still naked, on the northern end of his cot, facing the west, and asked me, "Well, do you consider me ungentlemanly?" Myself, "Of course not. You are a perfect gentleman. But why do you ask me that?" Master, "You see, Shivanath and others," referring to the Brahmos, "don't think I am a gentleman. When they come, I have to wrap a cloth or something around me." Do you know Girish Ghosh? Myself, "Which Girish Ghosh? The one who is in the theater?" Master, "Yes." Myself, "I have never seen him, but I know him by reputation." Master, "A good man." Myself, "They say he drinks." Well, he does also lead a bohemian lifestyle, but society kind of judged him that way. But Sri Ramakrishna looked at his spiritual potential. So the master says, "Well, let him. How long will he continue that? Do you know Narendra? Myself. No, sir. Master. I wish very much that you could meet him. He has passed the BA examination and is unmarried. Myself. Very well, sir. I shall meet him. Master. Today there will be a kirtan at Ramdatta's house. You may meet him there. Please go there this evening. Myself. All right. Master. Yes, do. Don't forget. Myself. It is your command. Shall I not obey it? Surely I will go. He showed us the pictures in his room and asked me whether a picture of Buddha could be had. Myself. Very likely. Master. Please get one for me. Myself. Very well, I'll bring one when I come again. But alas, I never returned to Dakshineshwar. That evening I went to Rambabu's house and met Narendra. In one of the rooms, the master sat reclining against a pillow. Narendra sat at his right and I in front. He asked Narendra to talk with me. Now both Narendra and Ashwini were lawyers or had studied law. So Swami Nikhilananda often wanted to hear them conversing. Sometimes you would ask them to actually converse in English. But Narendra said, I have a bad headache today. I don't feel like talking. I replied, then let us put it off till another day. And that came to pass in May or June of 1897 at Almora. The will of the Master had to be fulfilled, and it was fulfilled after 12 years. Ah, how happy I spent those few days with Swami Vivekananda at Almora. Sometimes at his house, sometimes at mine, and one day on the top of a hill with nobody accompanying us. I never met him after that. It was as if to fulfill the Master's wish that we saw each other at Almora. I saw the Master not more than 4 or 5 times, but in that short time we became so intimate that I felt as if we had been classmates. How much liberty I took while speaking with him. But no sooner had I left his presence than it flashed on me, goodness gracious, think where I have been. What I saw and received in those few days has sweetened my whole life. That heavenly smile of his, laden with nectar, I have locked up in the secret closet of my memory. That is the unending treasure of a hapless person like myself. A thrill of joy passes through my heart when I think how a grain of the bliss shed from that laughter has been sweetening the lives of millions, even in distant America. So that is a letter, conversations of teachings for all bhaktas. And often when we read the gospel, it is extremely helpful and we can actually visualize every conversation, visualize being in the presence of the conversation, imagining the people in the room, feeling their presence, feeling the heat, the smells, the experience. And much of that you gain even more when you actually visit the room, visit the Dakshineshwar, see the northern veranda, imagine from what direction these people are coming from, their impressions. When you read the Gospel and go to Bellarmine, go to the Dakinishar, that kind of like fills in all the blank spaces as we're reading the Gospel and gives you that a more full experience. So I will conclude with that. There are a few announcements to give. Tomorrow evening, Swami Brahmatmananda will continue with the reading from the Gospel of the Holy Mother via Google Meet. And that will be at 7 p.m. tomorrow evening. Friday at 7 p.m., Swami Satyamananda will continue with the reading and study of self-knowledge, Atmabodha, a translation given by Swami Nikhilananda. This Saturday at 10 a.m. will be Karma Yoga here in Seattle. And you're all invited to attend that, whoever can. This coming weekend, we will be graced by the visit of Swami Aparananda. He'll be arriving here Saturday, and he will be giving the Sunday talk. And the topic of his talk will be on the Bhagavad Gita. That will be at 10 a.m. And 7 p.m. we shall have Ramnam, led by Raka. So you're all invited to attend that. And I will conclude now with a chant. Om Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanukampa Dhitavigraham Vai Ishavataram Paramesamityam Tvam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namamaha. We salute that Ramakrishna who is without blemish, eternal and infinite in forms, who has assumed human form out of compassion for the devotees, who is God incarnate, the Supreme Lord, and who is most worshipful. Om, peace, peace, peace to all beings.